there's a big price premium for lawyers who specialize in AI, that they are earning higher salaries. And so if I was starting out, going to law school now, I would definitely be focused on AI.
Hello and welcome to episode 460 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson. With me is Jackie Schafer, CEO of Clearbrief. Jackie, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm the co-founder of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. If you have questions, you can always ask them on our website. That's thinkinglsat.com. The June 2024 LSAT scores are going to be released on June 26th. That's in 2 days. Please let us know how you did. What did you think of the whole experience? We always love to hear the good news and the bad news. The August 2024 LSAT registration deadline is the next day. That's June 27th. I don't know why they always have it so far in advance, but yeah, you can register for the test then. On July 20th, we have a free class with Alla that's going to be Plateau Pulverizer for logical reasoning and reading comprehension. You can sign up for that at lsatdemon.com/free. Jackie, thanks again for coming on the show. I do want to say a little bit about you. So you're the founder and CEO of Clearbrief. That is a company that is AI powered. It helps attorneys write the fact sections of briefs. Is that correct?
So yeah, it does a lot of different things. So basically it's all about turning Microsoft Word into the place where you could see all the underlying evidence. So yes, the facts, but also the legal sources cited. You can, fix your formatting and your citations. You can automatically generate a table of authorities. You can generate a hyperlinked timeline based on your source documents that you can then turn into a fact section or a letter or an investigation report. Then at the very end, you can create a hyperlinked version of whatever you're drafting in Word that displays the law and the facts. So this is really popular, with our law firm customers, for filing their briefs and motions with the court, so that you win the case by showing them all that underlying evidence. It's become even more important in the age of ChatGPT and AI hallucinations and that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay. Definitely want to dig into more of that. You have a long legal history, right? You've actually been involved with AI for a while before it was popular. You were one of the inaugural members of the Texas Bar's AI Task Force. That was when was that? When did that task force start?
So actually, that was pretty recent. That was
Okay.
Started last year, but yeah. So I actually founded Clearbrief in 2020. So it was sort of before the latest AI hype cycle. And I had been my career, I started out as a litigator at a big firm called Paul Weiss in New York. It's one of the top, litigation firms. And then I actually, fell in love, moved to Alaska, as one does. And I was, in-house counsel. I was also an assistant attorney general for several years. And then I was also recruited by the Washington Attorney General's office. And then I was really interested in sort of impact, work and how I could have a bigger impact on the litigation and the appellate work that I was seeing as a litigator. And so I went in-house to a national nonprofit called Casey Family Programs that works with government agencies and courts to sort of bring them data and improve their practices. And that was where I really started to learn about AI. And one of the things that inspired me to found my company.
Wow. So AI has been used longer than it's been popular in the last 2 years, really, or a year and a half, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, AI, it's sort of, the latest craze is really all about generative AI,
Yeah.
where AI is sort of writing things for you. But AI has been around for much, much longer than that, where another term for it is natural language processing, where essentially it's taking the words that we write and sort of figuring out the patterns, and that's, how a lot of the core aspects, including legal research, like has been using AI forever around search to find things that are closely related. So we were using sort of advanced AI and natural language processing from, the inception of the company. And now with generative AI, we've added in that ability to generate, documents, generate texts. But the really unique piece of what we do is around there's always citations. When you use Clearbrief, it shows you a citation to that source in Word. So it kind of splits the screen in Word. So it's always visible. And that means when you're, if you're a law student, if you're writing something and you're sending it, to your legal writing professor, or you're working at a law firm as an intern and you're sending it to your supervisor, they can always see what it is you are, where you got your information to know that you're on the right track and it's accurate.
Interesting. So stepping back a little bit, when you started going into this, you were using AI, but it wasn't generative AI. So it wasn't generating text for you, but how was it helping you?
So in Clearbrief, you basically would launch Microsoft Word, and let's say you're starting a draft of, something that's going to become a motion in a case. And you sort of know the story that you want to tell, but in a brief or motion that you file with the court, pretty much every single sentence has to have a citation after it to the facts and where you found that piece of information.
Yeah.
So if I am writing about, President Trump, blah, 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 I have to show the exact, spot in the trial transcript where he said something. I can't just tell the court, former President Trump said this. I have to show them exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
So with Clearbrief, you dump in your source documents, and then you can just write. And our kind of killer feature that we won Litigation Product of the Year for at the largest legal tech conference called Legal Week is called Add Fact Cite. The Add Fact Cite button. So you can select any text in your document, and the AI will make suggestions to places that could prove what you wrote about. So if you said the sky is blue, it's going to suggest pages that talk about witnesses saying, the sky is bluish, the sky is blue. It'll actually find things that even if they're not an exact match, it'll find conceptually relevant evidence. And then you click a button and it inserts a hyperlink to that source. So normally the way lawyers do that is they might just have 1,000 different PDFs open and they're kind of using Control F to find things.
Yeah.
And then they manually type in like, okay, deposition transcript at 5.
Yeah.
Then the next person who reads that, they might not have access to deposition transcript at 5. They might not, not be able to catch that actually it was a totally different page, or it was a different transcript, or that person misconstrued what the page actually said. So that's like a very common problem in the legal writing process, is that you have so many documents that it's hard to keep track for all the people who need to check it over and edit it. So that's the biggest problem that we are solving. And then at the end of it, we also can, with a button, make a version that the court gets that benefit too, that, it's much easier for them. And instead of you telling the court, go on your own and find deposition, page 5 or whatever,
Yeah.
you give it to them and show them with a click. So it's much more compelling. It makes them, trust your writing.
Yeah. So you end up submitting a PDF to the court that has those hyperlinks in it, and it just links to another part of that PDF.
It actually, there's different options. That's usually how people do it. It actually links to Clearbrief's secure website, where the court personnel get a side-by-side view so they can read your brief or motion alongside the evidence. So when they click on a site, it just pulls up that source. So they don't lose their spot in the reading, but you can also, do it as an offline access type thing as well.
Yeah, I guess I was imagining it had to be like in a PDF or something, because it seems like the courts are always years behind whatever sort of technology is currently available, right? It's, you got to print out your PDF and then you got to submit it. And now we're finally accepting PDFs, but you want me to look at a website? I guess that's not accurate. They're open to these technologies. And
yeah, we've had, actually, I feel like it's probably the biggest you know, like step of progress that we've seen with courts is that they are actually asking for hyperlinked documents, and that is really one of the best ways to make a judge's, and a clerk's life easier is to give them a hyperlinked document. So many courts now require hyperlinks, including like the New York, commercial division. Some of them started around COVID where it was just like, yeah, they don't have someone to deliver them, binders and binders of things, like make it simple for them.
Yeah.
And most of what's filed with the court is also public record anyway. So just making it easier for everybody to involved in the case, like the clerks, to access that information easily. It's a huge benefit. So even when courts and judges don't specifically say like you can file hyperlinked documents,
Mhm.
you can always email it to them, and of course your opposing counsel, and say like, as a courtesy, it's called a courtesy copy.
Mm.
Here's a hyperlinked version of it, and they will say thank you so much.
Yeah.
Made my
Yeah.
life much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. So that sounds like something that AI is very good at, right? You have a lot of documents, you're trying to go through those documents and find facts that are going to justify whatever claims you're trying to make. Did generative AI add the ability to also generate the facts section then?
Yeah. So, whereas Clearbrief started out, it was very much like driven by what you were writing, and you would prompt it to
Yeah.
look, like, oh yeah, I want to select this text. You find me evidence to prove this idea, or I can search in Clearbrief and find me pages of the facts. With the generative tools, I can now just dump in my documents and say, okay, I'm going to click a button, make me a timeline.
Mm.
And Clearbrief extracts every date. It puts a summary of what happened on that date and then a link to the source, so that you can verify it and check it over. And then from there, you can edit that timeline. And then we have the next step, which is to actually to turn the timeline, the generated timeline, into a document that's more like a final product. Still
More
needs
of a
human review.
narrative or something.
Yeah, like a narrative, but usually like, a letter, a demand
Mm.
letter, um,
Mm. Mhm.
or a, fact section or an investigation report. So yeah, there's a lot of very cool things that you can do with it. But I would say again, like the most important aspect of Clearbrief is that it's always showing you that source. Whereas if you use like ChatGPT or another AI tool that isn't like really designed for legal use, first of all, it may make stuff up, or try to restate things in a way that when a judge looks at it, they'll be like, this document doesn't say that. So we're really designed to be very faithful to that original text.
Mm.
Um, and it's up to the lawyer to put their spin on it, right? Like there's still a lot of human involvement needed, because our tool is not like trying to tell you this is the theory of the case that you should argue. It's not going that far, at this point, at least. We're really putting it in the hands of the lawyers who are they know already what they want to argue to the court. They just want to find the best evidence that they have to support that idea.
Hmm. Wow. So, I mean, when you say that yours is geared more to be accurate and not make things up or to hallucinate, I'm thinking about all these big companies, Google, OpenAI, Meta, who are spending billions of dollars trying to fix that problem and aren't, from what I can tell, successfully fixing it. So how is your system different?
Yeah, so it's just like a totally different use case. They're, building models that can really try to like understand the intent of your, open-ended question about any
Mm.
topic. That's like
Hmm.
a very hard problem to solve. That essentially like, Google search, if you type in like lemonade stand, like
Hmm.
how does it know what you're actually looking for? A company called Lemonade Stand, or an actual like lemonade stand in your neighborhood, or how to make lemonade and start your own stand? Like there's all sorts of, you know, complexity that like they don't know who the end users are. It's wide open. So the models are trying to solve, endless use cases. We are
Yeah.
purpose built for a very specific workflow. Like we know what lawyers are trying to do in this
Mm.
particular situation. We've guided them through this, exactly how to achieve this step by step. So there's, it's just a totally different problem. But we are using, for example, for the generative tools, we leverage the large language models, that Microsoft Azure makes available, which is OpenAI's model that they host.
Mm.
so that you sort of have this Microsoft connection there that is very appreciated by our law firm customers. So we're leveraging the work that the large language models are doing, but we're applying it in a very, very specific use case.
You're somehow directing it to only rely on the documents provided.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a closed universe. That's
Mm.
one aspect of it. Yeah. Hmm.
Mm. Oh, interesting. So I hear all this, and if I was a future law student, I'd be thinking, okay, that sounds like it makes my job a lot easier, a lot faster, which also means we wouldn't need as many attorneys or personnel as we did before. Is that accurate?
I mean, I actually don't think that it's that obvious that what's going to happen with that. Because for example, in the past, if you look at other technologies like Excel, right? Like
Yeah.
introducing Excel, it didn't mean that like suddenly we don't need accountants anymore. It's like, no, it's just like a tool that they that accountants use. And in fact, it's created even more jobs. And, um, it's sort of about those, that class of folks working, moving on to higher level work and using those tools in a way that wasn't, possible before. So that's probably, my gut feeling about it. And again, I've been, I practiced as a lawyer for over a decade and a lot of different settings and contexts, and also I'm talking with customers every day across the country who are adopting AI, including like the largest global law firms. Our customer base includes those massive firms as well as like Microsoft's legal team, in-house teams. Courts are using Clearbrief, government agencies, nonprofits, international organizations. I don't overall see so far a trend of them saying we're going to fire, half our staff. Like, no, that's really not what I'm seeing. It's more about, I would say like it's possible that, more administrative, legal sector jobs are at risk. Like the folks, for example, there may be sort of teams that big law firms have where all they're doing is, creating hyperlinks or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Example, like you may not need as many of those, but really there's such an opportunity for any professionals, administrative professionals, to learn how to use AI tools like Clearbrief, because there's a
Mm.
lot of, assistance that you can provide to the attorneys so that when they come in to use Clearbrief, the matter folder is set up for them and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just feel like it's not that easy of a, correlation of introduce AI, like what legal jobs go away. And in fact, I think we're also seeing right now, at least in the short term, we're seeing,
Yeah.
more legal tech jobs being created.
Mm.
I did recently see a study that there's a big price premium on for lawyers who specialize in AI, that they are earning higher salaries. And so it's a very hot area. And so if I was starting out, going to law school now, I would definitely be focused on AI,
Mm.
and technology in general. Because another, like, I think probably well-known dynamic of law firms is that the leadership of law firms tends to skew older. Law is an amazing career because you can continue to practice. You only get more wisdom, as you get, more experience in this field. And so
Yeah.
the leadership of the firms is not like turning over as quickly as you might think. So they didn't, necessarily start out using a lot of technology tools or AI tools. And so they're really looking for, um, these summer associates, new graduates to come in and bring tech skills to the law firm. So it's a very attractive skill set for many of these old established firms.
Yeah. They want to leverage this technology, right? But it's harder for them to do so. And they want talent that comes in and knows how to do so.
Yes, exactly.
Huh. Okay. What is AI currently bad at?
Well, yeah, so it's hard to answer questions like that because AI, the word AI is just like
Yeah.
a vast, like I was trying to kind of allude to before. AI just encompasses everything from like generating images, generating songs, generate like, like you like legal AI or AI
Yeah.
in general.
Well, let's talk about legal AI. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, um, again, and the word bad, it's hard to it's hard to say good bad. Okay, because like again, I guess I'm
Jackie,
a
are you a
lawyer.
lawyer by training?
Yeah.
Just
I have to be precise in
yeah.
how I think about things.
Yeah.
But I think this is honestly, it's a good aspect of our training as lawyers because nothing in this world is good or bad. Like,
Sure.
or very few things.
Hmm.
There's just so much complexity there. So I think, what AI, can struggle with. Like for example, there was a recent study that made a lot of waves, a Stanford study where they measured the effectiveness of several AI for litigation or, for legal research tools, including like case text and Lexis AI and, different products. And the study, found quite high rates of errors basically. And when they were asking it different legal questions where it was not giving the correct answer. Does that mean AI is bad? No. It just means like this is actually a very exciting step because it's, the reason why it made a lot of waves was because there hadn't previously been, studies that were, really trying to create benchmarks. And what I
Mm.
mean by benchmarks is like sort of say, okay, we're going to ask these different legal research, AI legal research tools the same questions, and we'll see
Hmm.
which one gives the best answer. It was sort of like everyone was just like, I have an AI for legal research tool. I have one. And you couldn't compare, what their performance was. So it is still amazing that we have tools that can, get to the levels of accuracy that they were even getting to. It is really like a huge innovation, and we're only going to see the accuracy, get better and better. But just like, you learn in law school how to do traditional legal research was looking in books to find the answer. There was never a guarantee of accuracy with that either, by the way. Like, you can also, you know, kind of read something in a text and misinterpret it and, it might be wrong. Um, then we had, legal research that uses search terms and keywords and Boolean search, which is like a special kind of, you know, text search that is really popular with legal research.
You're talking about LexisNexis and tools like that?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
the Boolean search, it refers to like using connectors like Jackie slash S, same sentence, Schafer, same paragraph,
Mm. Mm.
Clearbrief, and then it will find you just things that have, you know, that meet those parameters. So
Yeah.
these are like kind of old school ways of doing legal research. And, at every step of the way, people were worried that like, oh no, like, you know, electronic legal research won't be as good as the books. We have to still teach everybody how to use the books. So like
Yeah.
when I
You're
was
going to miss a paragraph where Jackie's name is mentioned in the second paragraph. And oh no, what's going to happen?
exactly. And so
Yeah.
like people always forget about, you know, we make errors, humans make errors with everything,
Mhm.
so we're not always thinking about that when we were comparing it to, perfection. So anyway, the point is
Yeah.
every step when we introduce new, technology tools to lawyers for legal research, there's been pushback and there's been fear. And so anyway, I think that what we're seeing is that currently the legal research tools, and by the way, Clearbrief is not a legal research tool, so
Yeah.
I'm talking about that because of this recent study.
Yeah.
Um, but it is, you know, showing that you really have to double check the results of the AI legal research. You have to just double check. You have to read the cases yourself. You have to try to, look beyond what the AI is telling you. And that's, should be common sense for most lawyers.
Yeah. Very interesting. So in terms of your place in the legal, I don't know, workflow, you're focused on the record and getting that information cited and easy to manage and so forth. What other tools are out there? Are there is there a suite of tools that people are typically going to now to kind of help them through the legal process? Are you primarily on the litigation side, I guess? Is that
Yeah, so we
it?
focus on litigation drafting.
Yeah.
Although we are starting to have different types of customers that are using our tools, but yeah, so litigation drafting, like so from that early stage of you have a blank page and you have to turn it into something, all the way through to I have to instantly generate my table of authorities. I need to instantly generate my exhibits. I need to hyperlink everything. I need to get it filed. So that whole process is a litigation drafting workflow. The legal research part happens in the middle somewhere in another tool. Everybody has their favorite. And then you can sort of copy and paste that, into your Clearbrief document. And by the way, you're checking that over though with Clearbrief because the citations display automatically when you use Clearbrief. So I can see the case. I can make sure if I used an AI tool, it didn't hallucinate and give me a bad case or point me
Yeah.
to it doesn't actually say this or that. So in terms of what people are using now, so there are different tools for example, for search, for finding facts. Um, and there's just, e-discovery tools. There's sort of just like a range of different things that people use for finding facts, but not really in Word while they're writing. So that's really a new sort of green field for us
Mhm.
that we focused on. And then there's other tools like, Westlaw and Lexis have products that, try to do your table of authorities. We think ours is better because we hold actually 4 AI patents that cover our core technology and how we figure out which strings of text are citations, and that sort of thing. So it's more comprehensive. It will find the short form citation, and these are things that um, if you've written a brief, you'll know how painful it is. It's just very tedious. So yeah, there's other existing tools that have, and then in terms of doing hyperlinks, there really haven't been a great solution. There's companies that will manually sort of like create files and create a file storage place for an individual brief and that sort of thing. Um, so yeah, we brought a lot of different tools together. So it's just like a one-stop shop
Mm.
and we meet the strictest security requirements. That's the other thing is like, you might find, some lawyers they're like, oh, I'm going to use this free like PDF tool on the internet to like add exhibit stamps to my documents. And it's like, well, is that a secure platform? Like maybe not. You can do
Yeah.
that in your brief instead.
That-
And yeah.
yeah, that makes a lot. I mean, that was on the back of my mind. I was thinking that's even with Clearbrief, right? Everybody's probably asking, like, how secure is this? I've got to keep my client's content private.
Yeah. And that was something that I knew early on from obviously practicing. And like I said, like, in 2020, legal tech was not that cool. And I think also investors just weren't as familiar with it as a category. So I did remember people thinking it was strange that we were like spending a lot and sort of investing in our security and our SOC 2 um, certification, which is like a security certification that law firms want to
Mm.
see. And it takes years to comply with that. And it's very expensive. And but that decision really paid off because, and we've just continued to add more and more layers of security and just admin features requested by our customers over the years. So now it is, yeah, much easier to go into those conversations and we explain all of these things that before they can even ask the question, we've told them that we have that what they're looking for. So I think that that's really the benefit of having founded the company, a few years ago that we've really thought through a lot of these things that law firms care about and courts care about.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense given your background, right? And I do want to take a brief moment if you have time to just talk about the fact that you started in big law, right?
Yes. Hmm.
And I think a lot of people listening to the show, they're thinking, hey, I want to go to law school. And yeah, I want to go to big law. That's why I'm going. I'm going to make money. That's what their goal is. Some people are like, no way, I don't want anything to do with big law. But you did big law and then you left. Is was were you did you enjoy your experience?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I have a lot to say about sort of career paths in law because like I mentioned at the beginning, I've had a lot of different, I've worked in a
Yeah.
lot of different legal settings. So yeah, I mean, I think when I went to law school, I was always really interested in public service. Um, but also I wanted to, make a good living. And yeah, I felt like very fortunate that I was a summer associate at Paul Weiss. It's just such an incredible firm
Mm.
for litigation. I do think it gave me amazing training for the rest of my career because they're so focused on these types of things around accuracy and legal writing and perfection really in your legal documents and sort of very, very high standards. it's very stressful to be in that kind of a role, like fresh out of law school. So that was, challenging, but I think it's always served me well in that every environment I went to after that, like everybody was like, wow, you're really you like really care about these things, or you really have like high standards. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And,
Yeah.
and I think that in some ways, ultimately inspired founding Clearbrief, which helps everybody sort of look really good like that. And it catches your formatting mistakes. I didn't really talk about that, but it kind of flags those issues for you about your
Mm.
citations so that before you send it to the partner, before you send it to someone else, it helps you, improve your writing. Um, so anyway, yeah, and I think it's just a great, experience, and it does give you a lot of credibility, for your next step. But I would also say, like, and I have so many friends who are lawyers, and I've seen how their careers have progressed, and I just think there's no substitute for figuring out what you want and really just going after that with a laser focus.
Mm.
If you know that you want to be a trial litigator and you go to a massive firm and you're not going to, do a trial like
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
for many years, like you'd be better off, going to a smaller firm where they actually have trials. You'd be better off going to government where you can, regularly do trial work. Like you really have to, get sort of, yeah, just make hard decisions about your career path, but at the same time, also give yourself the ability to change and grow. So I think that's what happened to me, where I tried, different roles. I loved one of my favorite periods of my work experience was being an assistant attorney general, where I did mostly appellate work. I love appellate work. And I felt like I had a lot of impact in that role where I was, arguing cases regularly before the state Supreme Court, and had a chance to kind of, yeah, impact the precedent. And I did work on several like high profile cases during my time, and also work on like policy issues. I was focused on, actually, my area of expertise that kind of developed by chance in a way was cases related to the state's relationship with tribes. And so
Mm.
that's just a very like fascinating area. And I had the chance to do a lot of partnership work with tribes and just sort of creative legal work. So, you never know where your career is going to take you. And yeah, I remember like being in, press conferences with like the Alaska State Troopers about different, this state tribal agreement that, I helped to start the negotiations for, and like being, on local TV in Alaska and that sort of thing. Like there's just so many, fun opportunities that you can have in especially like that it's kind of a smaller legal market in a way where you can have such a big impact
Mm.
in, in Alaska if you bring that New York work ethic,
Yeah.
No, but I just think there's so many opportunities like that across the country that don't just be swayed by the fact that, all your friends want to go to big law. Well, guess what? There's like a lot of different types of roles out there that might be better suited for the impact that you want to have.
Hmm. It seems like a big transition, maybe, or to go from big law in New York to assistant attorney general in Alaska and then Washington.
Yeah, it was definitely a big transition. And yeah, I would say one of the kind of like on the theme of what we've been talking about, one of the biggest differences is that, in a big law firm, you're working on a brief or a motion with, there could be like 10 people or 15 people that might touch that motion.
Mm.
You might write a section of it, or you might write the first draft. The whole thing gets changed a couple, several times. Like my name wouldn't even be on the final brief, right? When you're just the
Yeah.
first year or second year associate. And also you have a ton of help. So you don't even have to really worry about some of the administrative aspects. You're sort of like, that you have a lot of help if you need it. When you're a government litigator, you may not have a lot of administrative support. There's nobody else usually, writing it with you. You're doing it yourself, and then you might get, some feedback that you need to incorporate. But it's, a totally different experience. You have a lot of ownership. So that I really enjoyed that, actually, and it really helped me grow as a writer. But at the same time, that experience I had working with a team of really experienced litigators taught me, so I knew what to look for, and I sort of knew um, what good writing, looks like, and gave me that milestone. That's
Yeah. No, that's really fascinating. Well, when I was my second year in law school, I clerked at the DOJ, and one day, I don't remember who it was, but someone I was working for came in and said, "Hey, we have this case. It's going to the Third Circuit. Can you draft the brief?" And it's like, huh? And here's some other briefs that are similar to it. Maybe you can get some ideas from how to model this one. And then you're doing that work as opposed to editing somebody's paragraph or who knows what.
Yeah, it's just, I think it can be very impactful early in your career to join a place that is very busy and has more work than they can handle.
Hmm.
Even though those can be, high intensity jobs, that's just like incredible experience. You'll learn so much. You'll get, really just thrown into the fire. Yeah, and I think like also the way I've seen people maybe struggle in their legal career is not doing that and sort of like staying too long in a role that was like, oh, well, it's kind of like convenient or it's cushy. And even though it wasn't really like challenging them or it wasn't really building them a unique skill set, just because they were worried about, you know, change.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
when you're young, you just really need to focus on the quality of the experiences that you're having in your career and really prioritize that. And the people that you're working with, really prioritize that. The people you can learn from, that's like who makes you are who you learn from. It's kind of
Yeah.
my
Yeah. Who you're working with. Yeah. Excellent. So what prompted you to leave or it seems like there's got to be some inertia or some, just, okay, it's easier, like you said, to just stay with whatever position you have.
Yeah, and I would say like that was probably one of the biggest risks I've ever taken in my life was, leaving the legal profession and going to the startup world.
Mm,
And so I do really credit, my husband for encouraging me to do that. And, you know, it was the kind of thing where I had the more like kind of stable income for most of our career, or most of our partnership together. He started out as a musician, now he's a software engineer. So it was kind of like
mm,
around that time where he was getting his first engineering roles that he was like, look, I'll do it. You do the startup. Like you have this idea, you have this passion. So I give him props for that. I think that's also really important, like just to think about in terms of your career is like your partner. And
mm,
it's so hard to like grind at work and to grind in your career and really like prioritize your career if you feel like you don't have that support, which can
mm,
come from family, can come from friends, but like, your decision about um, your own relationship becomes, I think, I've just noticed that as like such a huge factor in my career, my friends' careers. So yeah, and then it was really just having a lot of conviction in my idea around
mm.
legal writing because
Yeah.
it was just a problem that I knew that this was not solved. And I just knew that even when I met with investors and they were like, I mean, how are you going to compete with Westlaw or like they have, Lexus, they have every resource in the world. Like they already have products that do something like this. I'm like, they don't do this. They don't
Yeah.
do, these things well enough. Like I know that I can make something unique with the technology that's emerging. And yeah, and so it was really just I did find people along the way who believed in me,
Mhm.
and that really made the difference of I raised funding, raised venture capital, and we're now, like I said, we have like I'm blown away by the adoption that we have sort of across the country in these major institutions. So
That yeah, that's very exciting. Do you have any last words for future law students, future attorneys?
yeah, I think just even though generative AI and ChatGPT are available for writing, I would say there is really no replacement for knowing what good writing is and being a strong writer. It is so important to your legal career, especially if you go to litigation. But honestly, it also comes back to like writing emails. It can apply across any legal career. So focus on developing those writing skills. And I still feel like it was such a growth period of growth for me in law school in my law school legal writing class. Even
Mm,
though I was an English major, I was a French, English French double major. I'd done tons of, work and thinking about writing in the past. Legal writing is different. And so really take that course seriously and don't try to take shortcuts. It is a skill that's going to pay dividends throughout your career.
That's really what attorneys are, right? Very well paid writers and
Yeah.
researchers, I guess.
And there's so many tools that can help us, but nothing can replace your own taste and sort of knowledge of how to express yourself and how to, write something compelling that can change someone's mind. It's something, you'll use it throughout, in your personal life too.
Yeah.
So it's a great skill.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, Jackie. If people want to learn more about you or want to connect, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Maybe we can include my LinkedIn profile in
Absolutely.
this post. That I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's probably my other piece of advice is start getting active on LinkedIn now. It'll also really benefit you throughout your law student and legal career. And then also you can email me at just email hello@clearbrief.ai and it will get sent to me. So if you want to reach out, if you have questions, happy to chat.
Awesome. I love that. I can't believe how many people come on the show and recommend LinkedIn. Is there anything more you want to say about that? Is there a particular way that you use LinkedIn or why is that something that came to your mind?
Sure. Yeah. I guess that's one of the things that I didn't realize I was accidentally doing it for years, which was um, reaching out to people and trying to connect with them, even if I didn't know them on LinkedIn, but who seemed interesting.
Mm,
I'd write them a note that using my, writing skills, and explain why I wanted to connect with them. And then by the time I actually ended up, founding my company, I had a lot more connections maybe on LinkedIn than the average person. And that really helped strengthen because every time I wanted to connect with someone new, they saw, oh, she's not, a random person. Oh, she's actually connected with these other people that I know.
yeah, yeah.
So the earlier you start and kind of build up it's really like a social proof engine
Mm,
for
yeah.
the legal profession really strongly cares about, what other people think and what other people are doing, who they know, that sort of thing. So it's as simple as that. That the more you build that base of connections, the stronger your future LinkedIn outreach will be.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. That was Jackie Schafer, CEO of Clearbrief. Be LSAT famous. You can ask questions or share news with us on our website, thinkinglsat.com, or on our socials at LSAT If you have questions about the LSAT Demon, you can email help@lsatdemon.com. Check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 460 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.